Hello, everybody. We've now reached the full moon, which really does mark the onset, the beginning of the course proper, our synthesized tarot course. Having spent the past 2 weeks assembling our members, distributing materials, and so on, really the full moon is our signal to go, I would say. And I should imagine that we're all at somewhat different stages in our reading, seeing as some of you will have read Meditations on the Tarot several times, others of you not at all. However, we will find our common path as we go along, and hopefully you've also found some time to begin the meditations of Olive Pixley, which I'm going to give to you in manageable chunks so that you can absorb them properly. And within this full moon report, I've also sent you the next stage of the lesson, following on from the first cosmic breathing, which will be the sphere of light, part 1 of the armor of light, the Amer U exercise. Somebody did ask me if I could send him all the materials, all the books of Olive Pixley, but that wouldn't really be appropriate. She herself said that we shouldn't try to rush her work, but take the time to absorb each exercise piece by piece. And I personally spent years working just with these first 2 exercises to build up that sphere of light, that armor of light within myself. We won't be taking years, but that's just an indication of the importance of the imperative not to rush, try and rush ahead if we're going to really get something out of those meditations. But take our time with them and take them into our being to the point that we can do them at the speed of light which they were intended. That's light work. So now, with respect to the synthesis of the tarot, it's been wonderful for me in preparing for this course to go over again the materials in question, the works of the members of our chain, and to see once again the rich streams of influence which Valentin Tomberg drew upon, how varied they are and how immense in their own right, rivers really. That formed the basis of the great initiations he went through, the 3 great initiations, Trismegistus, you might say, over the life of Valentin Tomberg, which included the occult, the anthroposophical, and the Catholic. And such was the brilliance of Tomberg that he somehow managed to synthesize all of these great rivers into the one ocean of his own life work and the legacy he bequeathed to us, primarily for our purposes, Meditations on the Tarot. And it's the more I read of Shmakov, Moibus, Nina Rodnikova, who are extraordinary in their own right, the more magnificent I find Tomberg's achievement, primarily because he managed to synthesize the purest almost devout Christian impulse with the deepest Hermetic occultism and Rosicrucian philosophy. So what Moebius brings to this equation is the astral occultism side of the work. For those of you, us, in this group who are primarily coming at this from an angle of occultism, you'll recognise Martinist philosophy, teachings of Papou, Paladin, Eliphas Levi, the French Hermetic school. Moebius, from the Russian side, the Great Initiate, the head of Freemasonry and the Russian Templar tradition. And, of course, the Tarot Minors, which you can't really find anywhere else, certainly not from the classical schools. And then we have Tomberg's own initiator, Nina Rudnikova, author of The Solar Way and the Inner Circle pupil of Moebius, who forms a bridge for the purposes of the study and the literature between that astral occultism and the great metaphysical philosophy that we have in Vladimir Shmakov, who for his own part manages to synthesize Kabbalah with Vedanta, which is astonishing, really. His, he of all of them, I think he blows my mind the most because I don't have any formal training or education in philosophy. I did study history, but I didn't formally study philosophy, and of course that is its own discipline with its own terminology and set of reading and people to study, all of whom Shmakov seems to know by heart, and is able to critique them all. The Hegels, Spinozas, Descartes. He just, and all the German schools and the French and the Russian. When it comes to the work of synthesis, Shmakov really pushed the boundaries, and Valentin Tomberg does acknowledge this in Meditations on the Tarot, where we just do see just how formative an influence Vladimir Shmakov was. And Tomberg does say he wants to resurrect the Holy Book of Thoth of Shmakov and ensure that this work was not lost. As he does with everything, Tomberg, that is, he sifts, he pans for gold in those rivers and brings an absolutely sublime distillation of these teachings to his own work. And it's an endless source of fascination to me to see where those influences lie, how they colour Meditations on the Tarot, and which points he decides are the essential. Now, as far as Arcanum 1 goes, the Arcanum of the Arcana, that which contains all the arcana in it, there are many discernible influences from both Moebius and Shmakov. But really, the whole of that Arcanum, which teaches the technique of the Tarot, this is the kind of the lift-off platform. And as I said, this is the Arcanum we must take in and absorb and become the magician in order to proceed with the work of the Tarot. and also to awaken within ourselves the living tarot, signified here by the Force Arcanum, the analogue of the magician in the second decade, the essential work of or attainment of concentration without effort, but into practice. And I'll just draw attention to the fact that both the magician and the woman in the Force Arcanum both have the sign of infinity above their heads. This is a commonality between them, a sign of the absolute potential contained within the magician, who moves from a state of absolute perfect being and the potential and the state of pralaya into manifestation, into and towards the creation. And in that absolute state signifies both unity and multiplicity, which you can't have one without the other. Unity contains everything within it. That means there must be everything. Unity and multiplicity, the multiplicity that will unfold through reflection of the absolute, the divine. Now, as we attempt this awesome unfoldment and movement from pralaya, which requires all kinds of subtle forms of energy, and the theme of energy is what predominates in Shmakov's denouement of the Force Arcanum: magnetic, kinetic, electrical, and so on. We're counselled by all our teachers to make work into play, to let the yoke be easy and the burden light, to not get bogged down, to be cheerful in our work as our minds are exploding with all the information. And we attempt our own synthesis. We attempt to bring this alive within ourselves, to work through everything and anything that we can in pursuit of the great work, which will be to reflect the divine and to find our way back to it. Now Shmakov, as does Tomberg, goes to great pains to describe to us the importance and meaning of symbols. The Hebrew alphabet, the letters are symbols, which are associated with and analogous to the different tarot arcana. And the arcana themselves are great symbols, which Shmakov teaches us that we can use symbols when our words fail us, when through our intuition we perceive the divine and we reach to the heights, but describing what we have seen is not always simple, but it's through symbols that we can make that knowledge known, codify it, share it with others, and bequeath it to the human race. And this is what the Book of Thoth, the Tarot Arcana, that's their purpose, to signify this divine knowledge, and to share it with others and to study it and meditate upon it. On the matter of intuition, I just refer to, for those who've read Tomberg in depth, will recall that he speaks of intuition as being this is the type of knowledge that we seek. A lot of the work we're doing is a matter of awakening perception, of awakening memories, of remembering, and of learning to use our intuition to perceive and to understand divine truths, reality, that is. Our intellect can only take us so far. And when we go into the realm of the unknown and we have to feel our way, it's intuition that will guide us. Now, there are as many perceptions and intuitions as there are people. So at the most basic level, there's an infinite number of intuitions and perceptions, all different. However, the more we study and practice, the more we'll find that our intuitions and perceptions can begin to align as we get closer to reality and the vision clears, perception clears. We come towards this shared intuition, which ultimately leads us to revelation, which Shmakov describes it thus, saying, revelation is the intuition of the race. So intuition is extremely important. Our goal is to awaken this, to cultivate it, and also to use the method of analogy. Very important. You will hopefully have read already about the method of analogy, why it's useful. Moibus, Shmakov alike speak at length of this technique. This is the method that we use in order to know the unknowable. So to learn the method of analogy will become and is very important as we go through this work. And we will develop that certainly in the next session, when we will also look at the binary system. The idea of unity and multiplicity already gives us an inkling of the binaries. And in the magician also is contained the first of the ternaries, the trinities, the triangles, which run throughout the Tarot Arcana, and also reminds us of the Kabbalistic influence here and the top of the Tree of Life, that trinity of Kita, Hokmah and Binah, the Godhead, in which equation the magician would be in the position of Kita, which you can also see on the diagram, the Tree of Life diagram. So we will, in due course, explore the incredibly important system of ternaries, the Holy Trinity, which cannot be dispensed with at all, and is absolutely crucial to the revelation of this entire work. What more can we say about the magician? You tell me.